everyone, it's Celine from Blue Cala Patterns and welcome to video 1 for the Coleus bowler bag. I have one of the sample bags that I made while designing the pattern, just so that I can show you the different features and what it looks like. So it is I would say it's definitely in a more advanced bag compared to some of my other patterns. It's a little bit trickier because of all of the curved corners that you have to sew, and it does have a drop-in lining. So if a drop-in lining is something that you don't enjoy sewing, maybe this bag isn't for you. So this is the bag. It's actually quite a deep bag, and I modeled it after the original bowling bags to carry a bowling ball. I'm pretty sure one of them would actually fit in this bag. And so it has a bottom piece that you can make out of fabric or vinyl or cork. It has two carrying handles, and then it also has a crossbody strap with connectors on either side. And the strap is removable, so you can just carry it by the handles if you like. Inside the bag, the bag is interfaced with foam interfacing. So inside the bag, we have one zipper pocket and two large slip pockets. Now, the first thing you'll want to do, like for every pattern, is read through the pattern at least once, but preferably twice. And then you're going to print out the pattern pieces that are at the end of the pattern. And this is what they look like. So there's not a lot of pieces to tape together. There's really just the bottom piece here. And I'm just going to mention a few things about the pattern pieces. So I gave you two different styles of strap connectors. These are just the templates that you're going to use to cut out the shapes. So I gave you this round version, which is actually identical to the connector in my amaryllis toad pattern. And then I came up with this new shape, and that's actually the shape that I'm going to use. So in this sample bag, I didn't use a connector. I used a metal connector just to show you that you can do that if you like. But metal connectors can be a little bit more expensive, although they are a time saver. So I decided to just provide some vinyl connectors for the pattern. So in the bag that I am making in this video, these are the connectors that I'm going to be using. So the bottom has two pieces that you need to tape together. You just butt the lines together. You'll see there's a matching symbol here to show you which lines need to be taped together. So that's the bottom piece in your connectors. The zipper end panel. So this is this piece right here. I gave you a measurement, so there always is a test square, 1-inch square, but I'm finding more and more that printers are not printing accurately. And so I've now started to give a measurement for one of the straight lines on certain pages, just so that you can double check that the scale of your pieces is accurate. So that's your zipper end panel. The main body, which is this piece right here. And I've given you the marks for your strap connector placement. And I've also, again, given you a measurement for the bottom line so you can double check. And then the last piece that I wanted to talk about is your zipper panel. So that's this piece right here. And that is cut on the fold. Now, when you're doing a drop-in lining, I like to add on a little bit to the width of the pieces, because when you're doing a drop-in lining, you're actually folding this edge. And if you're only folding a 1/4 inch wide strip, that's a little bit trickier to then folding a 1/2 inch section of fabric. So when you're cutting your exterior pieces, you're going to use this interior dash line. And when you're cutting your lining pieces, you want it a bit wider, so you're going to use this exterior solid line. Now, you can either fold the pattern piece to do this, or you can print out 2 copies of this pattern piece and cut one at the exterior, the interior dash line to cut your exterior pieces, and then a second piece that you cut at this solid line, and you use that to cut out your lining pieces. So aside from your exterior fabric, your contrast fabric, so the contrast fabric in this sample bag is this brown vinyl, and the exterior is this linen print. And your lining fabric, so in the lining fabric here in this bag, it's this print here. Aside from that, you're going to need some interfacing. You're going to need fusible woven interfacing, and you're going to need some type of firm sew-in interfacing. I'm using Peltex 70. And then you're also going to need some foam interfacing. So the amounts are all listed on the pattern for how much you need of all of these. And then in terms of the notions and supplies, so my exterior zipper, I'm going to be using zipper tape, and I call that the main closure in the pattern. And I'm using 17 inches of zipper tape. If you're using a pre-made zipper, you can use a 16-inch zipper. For my interior zipper, you can either use a pre-made zipper or zipper tape. So I'm using a pre-made zipper. This is a 9-inch zipper, and 9 inches doesn't include the ends here. It's just from this stop to those stops. That's 9 inches. If you're using zipper tape, you're going to need an 11-inch piece of zipper tape. Now, in terms of the hardware that you're going to need two 1-inch D-rings. You're going to need one 1-inch rectangle slide. You're going to need two 1-inch swivel hooks. You're going to need four 1-inch wide rectangle rings. And then if you like, you can add some purse feet if you want to add purse feet. And this is what they look like at the bottom. You're going to need 4 purse feet. So I have a package of 5 here, but I'll be using 4. And then it's optional, but if you want to add piping to your bag, I have some here, but it's black, so it might be a little bit more difficult to see. You'll only need 1 2.5 yard package. I like this brand because the tape portion is exactly 3/8 of an inch, and that's the same allowance that I use for the assembly of my bags, and so it makes it a lot easier. And then in terms of other supplies you're going to need, it's always good to have a bottle of Fray Check handy, and either fabric glue like Fabri-Tac or double-sided tape. Now, at the top of page 3, I've included a cutting chart. So instead of a regular cutting section that lists everything out, I've now just started to include a cutting chart. And in the cutting chart, it lists all the different, the names of all the different pieces you need to cut, and then what type of material you should be cutting it out of. So I'm going to go through one at a time, starting with the main body pattern pieces. In terms of my main body, I need to have 2 exterior fabric pieces. So this will be my exterior fabric for this bag. 2 lining pieces. So this will be my lining fabric. And then 4 pieces of fusible woven interfacing. And I'll be fusing one of the fusible woven interfacing pieces to the wrong side of each of these 4 fabric pieces. And then on top of that, you're going to need 2 main body foam pieces. I only have one here because one fell on the floor, but you should have 2 foam interfacing pieces for the main body. Next, you're going to be cutting your zipper panel pieces, and you'll remember that for the exterior pieces, I use the dashed line inside here where it says exterior cut line. And with that pattern piece, I cut 2 exterior fabric. And yes, I do have a little bit of the selvage in there, but it's going to be hidden within the seam allowance. I wasn't paying attention. And then 2 matching fusible woven interfacing, which I'm going to fuse to the wrong side of these pieces, and then 2 foam interfacing pieces. Now, before we attach the foam pieces to these exterior pieces, we're going to do a few things to it, but I'll cover that next. Now for the zipper panel lining pieces, I cut along the lining cut line, so that's that solid outside line. And I cut 2 lining pieces and 2 fusible woven interfacing pieces, and I'm going to fuse those to the wrong side. Next, I cut out my zipper end panel pieces, and I have 2 in my exterior fabric and 2 matching fusible woven interfacing, which I'll be fusing to the wrong side of these pieces. And then I also cut out my 2 lining pieces and matching fusible woven interfacing, again fusing these to the wrong side of these 2 pieces. For the zipper end panel, you're also going to need 2 foam interfacing pieces, and I have those here. So once the fusible woven interfacing is fused to the wrong side of the exterior pieces, I'm going to be attaching these to the wrong side of those pieces. I'll be showing you how to do that in a few minutes. So the next thing is the bottom pieces, and for the exterior, I decided to use cork. So with cork, you don't need to add the fusible woven interfacing. You just leave the cork as it is. And then you're going to need a piece of matching foam interfacing, which I'm going to baste to the wrong side, but I'm going to do a couple of things before I do that. And you're also going to need the bottom firm interfacing, which we will be attaching here to the wrong side of the bottom and then attaching our purse feet. So there's a few steps that we need to do to prepare the bottom of the bag, the exterior bottom, and I'll be showing you how to do that shortly. Now, also for the bottom, you're going to need the lining piece, obviously. So you're also going to cut one out of your lining fabric and a matching fusible woven interfacing, which you're going to fuse to the wrong side of the fabric. Now for the strap connectors, I showed you the little pattern pieces we're going to be using to cut out the shape. And I forgot that I shouldn't be doing any prep work for a video. I should be showing you how to do it. But if you look at the cutting chart, it's going to tell you the dimensions of the pieces you need to cut, and you should be using a non-fraying material to do this. So I'm going to use cork, and then I'm also going to seal the edges to make sure that they don't fray. And you need 8 pieces. So you'll see I've kind of skipped ahead here. There are 8 pieces. And then I glued them together, wrong sides together in sets of 2. So 2 pieces together. Now I have 4 connector pieces. For the zipper facing piece, the dimensions are in the cutting chart, and you should cut 1 lining fabric and 1 fusible woven interfacing and fuse that to the wrong side. For the zipper pocket lining pieces, I like to use a contrasting fabric inside my zipper pocket. So I picked this pretty coral fabric, and I cut 2 pieces according to the measurements in the cutting chart and 2 pieces of fusible woven interfacing, which I'm going to fuse to the wrong side of these 2 pieces. Now on the main body pattern piece, you're going to notice this dashed line, and it's called the slip pocket fold line. So you're actually going to fold the pattern piece at that slip pocket fold line. And then you're going to use this bottom portion here to cut on the fold 2 lining fabric. So I actually use some of my exterior fabric for my slip pockets because I like the contrast between the main lining and the pockets. So I cut out 2 cotton fabric, and I also cut out 2 matching fusible woven interfacing, which I'm going to fuse to the wrong side. Now, the last thing that you're going to do is cut out your adjustable strap and your handle. So I have not cut out the adjustable strap yet. I'm actually not going to include the adjustable strap in the video because I've already filmed how to make an adjustable strap several times. So what I will do is in the last video, in the description, I'm going to include links to some of the videos I've made before. One that shows you how to do a 1-inch fabric strap, and one that shows you how to do a 1-inch adjustable strap in cork. So I will include those two links in that last video inside the description. So look for those there. But you can follow if you're using fabric. You're going to use the cutting measurements in this chart to cut out your fabric and your interfacing. If you want to make the adjustable strap in cork or vinyl, then I recommend you go to the other video I'm going to link to, and that's going to show you a little bit of a different technique so that your adjustable strap is not very bulky. Now for my handle, I'm using cork and I'm using the measurements in the cutting chart to cut out these two pieces. And I'll show you how to sew these near the end once the entire bag has been assembled. So the first thing that we're going to do is assemble the bottom of the bag. And what you're going to start by doing is making marks on your bottom firm interfacing piece. So I want to find the center along this side and this side so that I am certain I'm aligning the firm interfacing in the center of the bottom piece. So when I cut my bottom piece out of the cork, what I actually did was I drew out the one half of the bottom piece and then I flipped it like this and I cut out the other half. And when I did that, I already marked my centers on either side. So I'm not sure if you can see them because they're kind of small, but there's one here and there's one here. So I want this piece to be centered nicely here. So I'm going to mark the center on this piece. Since it is exactly 5 inches along this side, then I know I can do a mark at 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to do the same for this side. Okay, now I'm going to flip it to the side that has no center marks. And I'm going to add the fabric tack. Now it is optional to add purse feet to your bag. I really like purse feet, so I am going to be adding them to this bag and also so I can show you the installation in this video. My bottle is a little bit clogged, so it's taking a bit of time for the glue to come out. Okay. Now I'm going to flip this back, and I'm using those center marks to make sure that this piece is lined up. And if you're wondering about the amount of space on either side, it should be about 3/4 of an inch. Normally I only leave 1/2 an inch of space, but I left a little bit more for this one because I found sewing these bottom edges was a lot easier if my firm interfacing wasn't so close to the edge. So now I'm going to give this a little minute to dry before I install my purse feet. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the placement of my purse feet. And so this is an older pattern piece, and so the marks aren't as visible as on your version of the pattern piece. And I'm using those center marks again just to know where to line up the fold line of my pattern piece. And then I'm going to mark the location for my purse feet on that bottom firm interfacing. And then I flip it over this way, again making sure that fold line is aligned with the center marks. And I mark the location of the purse feet on this side. Okay. So now I'm going to use my hole punch to punch out a hole at each of the 4 marks. Okay, now I'm going to insert the prongs of my purse feet into the holes So one in each hole. Okay, and then I'll flip it over. And then I want to spread the prongs and place the washer, and then spread the prongs all the way to secure. Now, normally, if I wasn't using foam on this bag, what I would want to do is cover these prongs to protect my lining fabric. But because I'm placing a foam interfacing over these prongs, I'm not very concerned about the prongs damaging the foam. The foam is quite thick, so. But normally I would cover these with either a scrap of fusible interfacing, or I would cover them with some kind of tape. Duct tape or packing tape is pretty good as well. Now, before filming the video and before writing the pattern, I usually make several sample bags to see if there's anywhere where I need to make some changes to the interfacing of the bag to avoid extremely bulky areas. So one thing that I found for this bag is that it was beneficial to remove the foam interfacing at the top and the bottom edge. So it's going down like this. So I'm going to actually cut away 3/8 of an inch here and here. Okay, and then I'm going to place this on the wrong side. So you're going to be leaving a gap. You're going to see a gap now at the top and the bottom edges. And you're going to need your clips, and you're going to clip that foam in place. And then I'll be going, once I have my foam basted on all of my pieces, I'm going to be going upstairs to my sewing room and using a zigzag stitch to baste all the foam pieces in place. And I use the zigzag stitch because it compresses the foam within the seam allowance and makes it a little bit less bulky. Okay, so that's ready for basting, which I will do later. Now on the foam interfacing pieces for our zipper panels, we're also going to trim away the seam allowance along the inside straight edge of both pieces. And then before we baste it to the exterior zipper panels, we're actually going to zigzag stitch this cut edge. So this edge here, we're going to use a basting stitch, zigzag stitch, and we want to compress the foam that will be running alongside our zipper. So that one is trimmed, and then we're going to also trim this one. Now, before we continue with the exterior assembly of the bag, I just wanted to show you my exterior pieces with their interfacing. So your zipper end panels, I fused my woven interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric, and then I basted the foam with a zigzag stitch. So I'm not sure if you can see the zigzag stitching. You can probably definitely see it here because there's contrast, but I used white thread. So that's the two zipper end panels. The bottom, you'll see it's only basted on either side, and there's that gap where there's no foam. So that's to reduce bulk in the seam because we're going to be attaching the main body pieces here and here. Your main body pieces, again, they have their fusible woven interfacing on the wrong side, and then the foam interfacing is basted on the wrong side with a zigzag stitch again. And then the most important part would be your exterior zipper panels. So the foam is basted to the wrong side, but like I just described, just explained, you're going to zigzag stitch this edge where you cut that seam allowance away. Then you baste it to the zipper panel along these three sides. So that long curved side and then the short straight ends. And that's what that looks like. Hopefully you can see that. And that's what I've done for both exterior zipper panels. The lining pieces are straightforward. They just have matching fusible woven interfacing fused to the wrong side. So that's the end for the cutting and interfacing video. In the next video, we're going to begin the exterior assembly of our bag.